Let's see if tea versus tannin in wine makes a difference and which we like better. Okay, so for a long time we've used black tea to add tannins to our brews. We've also used...
Do you know why we use black tea? Because we have an international audience that are literally all over the world. And so we wanted to choose something that was simple and easy and accessible to
Tea's pretty universal.
all of you.
Tea's pretty universal. I think pretty much everybody can get tea pretty much no matter where they are. So we use that. It does a great job of adding tannin to a brew. Also oaking, adding wood staves and things like that also does too. That's getting less findable for some people, though you can probably get wood almost anywhere. It's just getting the right kind.
Also, if you do a whole fruit brew where you include the seeds and the skins and stems and whatnot.
Tannins as well. Well, there's another product, it's called wine tannin, okay? And it's been on the market for a long time. A lot of people like to use it. We've never really had a problem with it. It's just, we never used it because we did tea. But people have been asking, so we said, hey, you know what? Let's do a test. Instead of just starting to use it all of a sudden, let's do a test and see which we actually like better. Is there a difference? Because I've never had one side by side. So we decided we're just gonna make a basic Welch's grape juice wine in the container, no less. And one of them's gonna get wine tannin, the other one's gonna get tea. And we're doing this, it might not be 100% perfectly scientific, but we're gonna do the best we can. I have here 6 ounces of hot water with a tea bag in it, not a tea bag with 6 ounces of water poured over it. It's 6 ounces already in here, so it's measured. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a, well, you know what? Let's just get to it.
We'll
show you what we're gonna do.
So we know that we need some headroom for our additions in this. So the first thing we need to do is to remove equal amounts from each of these vessels. So
actually, the first thing we need to do is find out what the gravity of this juice is.
Is there enough headroom for displacement of that hydrocarbon?
Yes, I think so. This has been cleaned. By the way, this is something interesting. These vessels are already sanitized inside, so that's why it's totally fine to use this as a fermenter. I mean, is it really appropriate to use this as a fermenter? Long term? No. For the short term that this is gonna be, for an experiment, sure. Alcohol can leach into plastic, plastic can leach into alcohol, something like that. Not necessarily the best way to go, but you know, we can get away with it for this experiment. As long as this floats. And it, whoa, it totally floats. 1.064 gravity on the juice.
Do you want to do both just for science?
Let's do both just for science. I'm betting you they're pretty close to the same. 1.064. So they are the same. That's step 1 accomplished. By the way, everything that we're using except for these was sanitized in
the red bucket of sanitization,
which is literally a red bucket filled with sanitizer fluid. Our preferred sanitizer fluid is Star San mixed according to the manufacturer's directions. People ask a lot of the time, how long does it last? For us, 1 day. We dump out every batch and make a fresh batch every time. You can supposedly put it in spray bottles, things like that. I personally feel it's probably safest and probably
most effective.
Most effective, that's the word I was looking for, to make a fresh batch each time. A container of 32 ounces of Star San costs like 30 bucks and it lasts us a year. So it's not expensive. It's not so pricey as to have to keep it around. And just be safe, dump it out. If you see it get cloudy, dump it out, make a fresh batch because that means it's actually lost its effectiveness. Okay. So we have 1.064 gravity juice. Let me figure out what the potential alcohol of that is.
Do you want to start in notes paper?
As soon as I have notes to write down, 1.064. If that was to go dry, 1.000. Let me start that over. To calculate gravity, you take your original gravity, which in this case would be 1.064, minus the final gravity. I'm assuming this would go dry, which would be 1.000. You multiply that by 135. We get 8.64%. Honestly, do we need to even add sugar to this?
I think that's fine
for a test.
Wine.
It's close to 9%. Yeah. Wines can be 8 to 15, so I think for the sake of this test, I think we're fine.
I am good with that as well because I want to limit the amount of variables as much as possible.
Yeah, so adding sugar, changing it up, it's another thing to throw it off. So what I'd like to do while the tea is teaing, it's only been a few minutes, I'm going to dump off, I would say 2 cups, because we want to make sure that there's enough headroom in here. So I'm going to dump 2 cups out of each of these. That gives us a little bit of headroom. so we can work with that. And I'll just do the same on the other one, and we'll be right back. All right, so we have the tea side and the tannin side. Now, I removed some just so that we have a little bit of headspace, something to work with. I also took the tea bag out of the tea. It steeped for about 6 minutes or so, which is perfect. So we have 6 ounces of black tea. Now, something important to note about tea is it really doesn't matter how much water you have. It matters how many tea bags you have. But a standard cup is 6 ounces or so. So I'm putting in 6 ounces and I'm just gonna pour it right in.
In this particular experiment, we wanted to be careful and make sure that we were adding similar amounts of liquid. So to compensate for the water we use to steep the tea, we're going to just add water to the tannin vessel of the same amount.
That way the gravities drop equally. So we're gonna add 5 ounces of water. But you know what? I'm gonna do the wine tannin into the water, I think. Mix that through and then put it in. Might be a little bit easier. We are just using North Mountain Supply wine tannin. Nothing fancy. Got it on Amazon. We'll have links to all this stuff. My understanding is that the wine tannin is made from the bark of trees, chestnuts, things like that. So it's totally fine. It's just not as simple to use. Well, it's as simple to use, but it's not as easy to get for some people. The package actually says 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon per gallon. These are 96-ounce containers, so they are 3/4 of a gallon. So I'm going to err on the side of caution, especially since the competitor is tea. I don't think it's the strongest tannin source out there, so I'm going to use 1/4 teaspoon. Drop that right into the water. Give it a little stirry stir. Yum. Shockingly, it looks just like the tea. It does not smell like it. It smells like wood. And pour it in. So the next step is we need something to make this actually ferment, and that's going to be yeast in this case, which is normally what you use. And for that, we're going to be using Red Star Premier Classique. It's a 13% yeast tolerance, so our 9% or so wine should be just fine here. It does tend to keep colors and things like that, so it should have a nice color at the end. It's probably gonna be a pretty nice tasting wine either way. It'll be a nice, like a Cabernet kind of thing. But I'm gonna cut the package open.
We're about to do something that you probably have never seen us do on this channel so far. And that's, we're gonna weigh the yeast.
I think we've weighed yeast at least once. There's 5 grams in each of these packets, okay? This is enough to do 5 gallons. We have far less than that. We have less than 1 gallon in each of these. So I'm just gonna use 1.5 grams just to make sure I have a viable amount of yeast. And I'm gonna tear this guy out. This is an ultra sensitive scale. It's a jeweler scale. So it's really, really good. I mean, even just the air pressure in here, it changes. If you talk over it, it literally moves. So 1.5 grams. 1.5 grams is a considerable amount of yeast. Now, you might be wondering, why am I bothering to do exactly 1.5 grams of yeast? Well, mostly just for consistency's sake. It doesn't really matter because the amount of yeast I put in is really not that critical to how it's going to taste at the end, especially if they're within, you know, a little bit of each other.
We're just trying to limit the variables so that way we're as even with both recipes as possible.
Exactly. She said it so much more succinctly than I did. Okay, the rest of this, yeah, I'm going to use my patented folding technique, which let me show you. You take the whole packet, you fold it corner to corner like that, make a good crease. Then you fold that over corner to corner, you make a peak in the middle, right? And then you fold the peak down, and then you fold the peak down on top of itself again, put a piece of tape across that, stick it in the fridge, good for like a year or more. It's a surprising amount of yeast, actually. 1.5 grams.
So do you want a dry funnel?
I think a dry funnel might be a good idea. It's gonna stick all over the place. I'll be right back. Okay, I have a funnel. Now I want to point out something. This was not sanitized. However, it's not touching any liquid, and I'm just putting it right over the mouth of it. Look, it's not even gonna touch the inside, and all that's touching it is the yeast. Whack your packet. Then I'll put the lid back on just for a moment. I'm putting the lids on to keep airborne things out, okay? To keep every possibility of differences to a minimum. Make sure it's not touching.
It's not touching.
It's like playing Operation.
I'm not touching you.
Tea versus tannin. And they are as identical as they can possibly be. Even looking at the volumes, they are the same. So all we need now is airlocks and bungs to put on these so that they don't blow up.
So we went through all of our airlock stopper things And it's the larger ones for like the
5-gallon,
5 and 3-gallon fermenters that work for these particular bottles.
They don't fit perfect, but they fit well enough. It's better than using the cap method, which I don't like it. It's kind of like a last resort if you don't have anything else, but only use it maybe while you're waiting for your airlocks to come in or something. I don't know. I wouldn't do it. I'm probably going to rubber band these or tape them on because these are not going to stay. I mean, obviously, these are the containers they came in. It's not made for this kind of thing.
Have you ever suggested that they use electrical tape, and that actually isn't that bad of an idea because it's super sticky.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to get rid of the super sticky once you're done using it, but you know.
Okay, so we now have our 2 test subjects. They are going to go into our fermentation station, which is just a shelf on a shelving unit that's blocked off so the cats can't get to it. There's all kinds of cardboard and whatever. And they'll sit there for probably a couple of weeks. Once I see that the activity has died down, we'll be back with our first check to show you how they're doing.
Okay, so this is not a recipe, this is a taste test comparing wine tannin to tea tannin. So we kind of skipped a few steps so that way we can get right to the point. What we've done is we've taken these 4 glasses, and on the very bottom, but I can't show you now because...
Well, you can. Tea, tannin. I bet you this one's tannin. Tannin. Basically, we checked the gravities. They're both 1.000. Everything's good. I'm going to be totally honest. We didn't have the microphones turned on when we were actually recording that, so we skipped ahead and we're going to just condense that. It'll be a little bit quicker.
So we can't see which is tea and tannin because that's on the bottom, but we do have these blank labels on the side. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap them, and then we're going to swap them, and then we're going to write A, B, C, D.
So I'm going to leave the room. Derek is going to jumble them up. Then I'm going to come back. She's going to leave the room, and you'll see. You'll see.
Okay, he's gone. So I'm going to be very, you know, move them all around, and they're moving, and they're crazy, and stuff, and now I'm done. And Brian's probably going to move them again, so Brian!
Okay, so now it's just me. All right, so I'm going to move these around a little bit. Let's see. And then... okay, you can come back. We just both went to the next room. That way we couldn't see what was going on. Okay, now what I want to do is mark these A, you can see it, B, obviously C and D. When I said I would cheat, I don't really want to cheat, okay? Just my brain has a tendency to find a way to the quickest solution of a problem. Yeah, I know we need pens and we need paper. Because here's what we're going to do. To keep this even more, see, here's the thing. We had 7 Glencairn glasses, not 8. So we have to share. Had we had 8, we'd each get 4, and it would be a totally blind, double blind, triple blind, whatever the heck they call it. I don't know the names of these things. Do you want your green pen?
My green pen's over here to mark when we're done with the filming.
There you go. So what we're going to do is we're each going to taste different ones, and we're going to take notes. And we're going to try to see if there's a difference, or if there's a difference, what is the difference? Like, is there a discernible difference? And there's 2 of each. So that way it kind of tests us to know, did we actually see it, or are they like, do we just guess all kinds of wrong and they all taste the same? So this is neat. This is interesting. This is science.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
How are we gonna verbalize our experience while we're doing it, and then?
Yeah, we can talk about it a little bit. I mean, it's not completely blind between the 2 of us, but it's okay, and we can just talk about it. All right, so I'll just start with A. Right off the bat, it smells like Concord grape juice.
It sure does.
I mean, this is only like 9% or so, but it should be dry. It's not unpleasant. It's actually quite nice. This is my sweet red wine recipe, just not made sweet. It's actually dry. That way the tannic aspect should come through better. On my first impression, it actually tastes really nice. I get a nice full-bodied flavor, full mouthfeel, everything like that. I'm moving on to B. Should we be rinsing our mouth out or anything?
Oh, here.
You have water?
Water!
This one's different. This one's not as nice. And I like what we can do here. We can just randomize them all up. It tasted less tannic, more astringent. Water. And I'll just do this one, which is I think I have an idea. I think I already know something. I think I have discovered something. The only one I haven't tried yet is... Maybe. It's very subtle. It's a very subtle difference. I'm not seeing... It is not a night and day thing. Very subtle.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno girando, delle belle carovane.
Sorry for the total chaos here.
Welcome to our world.
It's always like this. Okay, I think I have my idea. I think I was right. My initial impression.
I think I am at a bit of a hindrance here because I don't like grape juice. Just generic grape juice, I don't like it.
I mean, it tastes like wine, but it tastes very Concord grape.
At all.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting so much of that Concord grape still that
I like Concord grape.
it's kind of making me go, eh. And then because it's dry, I'm getting that.
Oh, I'll be honest. This is
tingly-
not the greatest thing we've ever made. I mean, this is like average at best. It's
Sure.
not. It's not even a great wine. It's actually, as a table wine to just have informally with a dinner, a dry red wine like with a pasta sauce.
sure,
This
yeah.
is actually nice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it great. It's like a 5 to a 6.
Right. But if you were doing like a bolognese style sauce or something, put that in it to cook it and then pair it with
or chili.
Or chili. And it would be lovely.
But what we're really going for here is, does the tea versus tannin change anything? And in my opinion, if there's a difference, it's like 5%.
It's very minute.
Really minute. I'm actually surprised. I, for sure, thought the wine tannin would give a more pronounced effect. Now, it may be a more consistent effect. And in this exact example, we hit just the right numbers on just the right things. It could be that.
Yeah.
Because when you're making tea, another minute of steeping or a minute less
sure.
of steeping can change that.
Sure.
So consistency, I think the wine tannin is going to win in that regard.
I feel like as far as a tannin property added to a beverage, I think they're relatively equal, at least for my palate.
I had to go back twice to make sure,
only-
and I'm still not 100% on my choices.
The only difference was the read I was getting on them. One of them was slightly more what I've said as effervescent, where it gets that tingly sensation, almost like it's carbonated, though I know it's not carbonation.
Okay, yeah, I can agree to that.
And then another one went kind of beyond that, where it felt more astringent rather than just that tingly effervescent.
Well,
and
let's put these in order.
I preferred the effervescent sensation more than the astringent.
Well, it's not so much which do you prefer, it's can we tell a difference, and will our choices that we make here say this is the same as this or this is the same as
And
this?
then I marked, without going back, I didn't go back,
Oh, I went back.
which ones I thought were the same.
Yeah.
And so now we get to see how wrong we were.
Okay, now I'm saying what I said about A. I said it has a very full mouthfeel. I think it's got a nice amount of tannin, and I'm going to say that is the tannin. I'm going to go with that one. A. What did you say about A?
To me, that was the one that was more astringent.
That was the one more astringent. Well, okay.
But it's funny. Which letter did you pair A with?
C.
So did I.
There you go. We actually chose the same ones as the same. So that means there is more than a 5% difference, or just probability it happened.
Or we're both wrong.
Well, yeah, we're both wrong, exactly. So what do you think A is, though? Do you think it's the tannin, or do you think it's the tea?
I would guess the tannin, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's the tannin as well. Let's find out. It is the tea.
It's the tea.
All right. Well, we're already 50% wrong. So let's just keep going. But that goes to show you just how close these products really are. That I actually preferred that.
Where I preferred the tannin.
Yeah. Okay. B, I said was a little bit less tannic, more astringent. She said the opposite.
Said it was more effervescent sensation.
So we're both going to say that we think this one is the tea, which we're wrong.
Right. So it's
Let's find out.
Tannin.
It's tannin.
It's tannin.
Okay.
So if this one is tea.
If this one's tea, then we're right and wrong at the same time. We were right in being able to tell the difference, but wrong in which one was which. It is the tea. So we did actually guess
We paired them correctly.
which ones were the same, but we did not correctly get which was which doesn't surprise me because we've never done this comparison side by side to know what the differences would actually be. Really, really freaking interesting though. That's amazing. But I do need to test them like side by side now because I know that these are not the same. No, I don't even want to rinse.
Okay.
Okay, interesting. The tea is actually giving a more pronounced mouthfeel, a more pronounced tannic effect in this instance. Like I said before, a different type of tea might change it. A longer steeping, shorter steeping, hotter temperature, cooler temperature could change
I
it.
get an aroma difference, do you?
Yes, the tea actually smells nicer.
Yeah.
It has a much more fruity.
Right. It doesn't smell like tea. It smells more fruity. More
That's one thing I want to
aroma-wise.
explain. I don't taste tea in either of them.
Yeah.
There's no tea flavor whatsoever. And actually, you know what? Let's just do this so that we have more to sample from
Okay.
because I have a feeling they are the same. So, yeah, there's no tea flavor or smell. But the fruity, grapey smell is more pronounced in the tea version than it is in the tannin version. Now, I'm not saying that I'll never use tannin. There's a time and a place for everything. It's actually very convenient. It's really easy. You've never seen us use it in a video, but that doesn't mean we won't. I wanted to know the difference before we went ahead and used it, though. And in all honesty, if I drank A today, and in 3 hours, someone gave me the other one to try, the tea version, and then they gave me the tannin version, I would say they were the same thing.
Yes.
The difference is not pronounced enough. In a side-by-side, you can just detect it. Just. So, does this prove anything? Well, not conclusively, because it was only one experiment, okay? We could do this 100 different ways.
Well, my takeaway from this is that if you want to add a tannin element to a brew, you can use either black tea or wine tannin based on what you can get in your location.
Right.
And you should be fine either way.
I'd like to make a further little assessment here. The smell on the tea version is nicer. The flavor on the tannin version is ever so slightly smoother.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't have there's a rough edge to the tea
Yeah.
that isn't in the other one. It's very slight, very minor, but it is there. It is worth noting.
These are both really young because we
they're
weren't
only 2 weeks old.
pushing the recipe so much as just getting the tannins. So it's possible over aging they may start becoming closer together.
Or diverge even more.
Right. We don't know that.
We don't know,
We
and
don't have that information.
you know, that does make me wonder, should we bottle these separately, keep a bottle of each for a year, and do this test in a year?
You can do that.
I think we're gonna do that, because there was a difference. If there was really no difference, we just put them all together. But I think we're gonna do that.
All right.
But anyway, that was really cool. If you like these kind of videos where we do that, let us know in the comments. And if you got the reference that I gave, tell me what the name of the movie is in the comments below, but say nothing else. Just to fool your neighbor and see if anybody else gets it. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.